Hey everyone, it's Andy here, and today I'm going to talk about a very common code people see on the IRS tax transcript that will likely delay or at least hold their refund for longer than the standard 21-day time frame. So I'll talk a little bit about the 971 and 570 codes. These are very common codes a lot of folks see on the IRS tax transcript. I'll go into why this is happening, what the dates mean, what the amounts mean, and when you could get your refund. As always, if you like what you see here, please hit the like and subscribe button. So today I'm going to cover this transcript on the video today. It's just a good example of what is a very typical issue a lot of folks are seeing around their 971 and 57 codes, and it's very similar to what you'll see. A couple of things I want to highlight of how the $5,363 refund is paid and which codes matter. So as with any IRS transcript, and they're all free, available through your IRS account, and I've posted a video of how to access this, you need to pay attention to the right year. So this is 2022, for example, and then the amounts correspond to that. You will have prior years in your transcripts, and if you're not looking at those years, don't worry about those amounts. You need to just focus on what's relevant for the current year because this is not always listed in order, and it can be a bit confusing to find out what you're looking for. But look for the ones that are the codes, the transaction codes, which is really what tells you what the IRS is doing, and the amounts and the dates there. So pay attention to the dates of the 2022 and look at these codes. And in this video, I'm specifically talking about 971, 570, but then it just shows you the sequence of what happens. A lot of times the dates are listed here. For most parts, the date matters to an extent. The key date is the one for the 846 when your refund is issued. The rest are more just around system dates that are put in the future sometimes, but generally speaking, you care about the 2022 lines the most. And I'll talk about this in a couple of slides. It's first important to understand what the 570 code means, right? So this is probably the most common one folks see on their IRS tax transcript after they've submitted their return and the IRS has done the initial processing. This could take a few days, maybe a week, so don't expect it immediately when you file your return and it's accepted by the IRS that you'll see it. But what will happen is if there's an issue with your return, the 570 code will pop up on your tax transcript. And this is the big code that could be due to many different things. And unfortunately, depending on the severity of the issue is how long your return will be delayed. But essentially 570 is a hold or a freeze code that the IRS uses to justify what they're doing. The resolution could be automatic. It could take some manual verifications. It could require you or your employer to provide more information. And a lot of times the T750 code will come up because of issues with your employer reported wages, or if you're a contractor, it could be from your contracting agency or your third party payment. So it could be due to a income or wage issue on your return that the IRS cannot reconcile. The other big one is ID verification. So this is a huge one in the last few years, and it continues to be an issue where because it's not able to validate your ID, you may see the 570 code, which you'll get a letter as well, and that's the 971 code that'll require you to call the IRS to validate your identity, then to allow refund processing to continue. But the big one this year, especially over the I'll say the last 2 years and maybe even into next year, will be reconciling your tax credits. So everyone knows a lot of stimulus checks, child tax credits were paid over the last 2 years. The RRC, or the Recovery Rebate Credit, which is how you claim any missing or underpaid stimulus checks, and the child tax credit were sort of two of the biggest items people claimed on their tax returns in 2021 for filing in 2022, and it'll also be the case in 2023, I'm sure, with missing payments there. But a lot of times, taxpayers had to submit what was already paid and then claim what was remaining. But because if they either put an incorrect amount, or they tried to claim twice the amount, or the dependent status changed, or they had injured spouse claims, whatever the reason, a lot of issues were seen this year with the IRS reconciling those amounts. So this actually will require the IRS to do a manual review, which creates the 570 code. And then if they can resolve it automatically, it may take 1 to 3 weeks for that to happen. It'll shift to the next processing status and your refund is generally paid. If not, they'll ask you for more information, or they'll automatically reduce it and tell you they're denying certain payments. So a lot of folks have seen a reduction in child tax credit or a stimulus check is because the IRS made an adjudication and then sends you a 971 notice, which is the general code for any IRS notice, but there'll be a notice if they make an adjustment or they require more information, and this will be sent to you. And this is what you see on your tax transcript. When you see the 570 code, you'll probably see a 971 notice issued either the line before or the line after, and then it'll keep processing. And if it's resolved, then you may get another notice as well to say the issue is done. But this is sort of the 570 code. This is really, when you see this, it's like a catch-all for the IRS to mean a bunch of validation reviews, and your processing and your refund will be held until it moves to the next stage of processing, which is resolution of the 570 code. As always, if you like what is helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. And I'm going to now talk to you a little bit about what happens with the transcript I discussed earlier. So as I talked about earlier, you can see here on the left is the transcript that I showed briefly there. So I've taken out the relevant sections here, and I'll touch a little bit about what these mean. So the total refund that goes to the person was 5363, which was made up of their initial filing, which showed a liability of 7,243. They had obviously withheld taxes of 10,506 during the year. Again, I'm looking at the 2022, and it's really important that you look at the 2022 dates. These 2021 dates, they don't matter for this analysis, or at least for the current tax year. You'll also see here there was a 2100, and you can see on the transcript, it shows all the lines, and you got to jump down, and then you'll start seeing the 2022 lines at the bottom again. You'll see here this person got a $2,100 credit to their account. This 766 code is a refundable credit. This is probably the child tax credit that they got to their account, so it means they got it. And the 5363 is basically a total of the 7243, the 10506, and the 2100. The negative amounts are actually amounts the IRS owes you, so that's why it looks a bit strange. If it's positive on these lines, it means that you owe the IRS. So it's a little bit strange, but you'll basically see that the 5363 is how that number is calculated. So that's how you know the refund was issued. But as you can see, there was all these other codes, 971, 570, and 571 before it got to the very important 846 code on the transcript, right? So these are the codes that you'll see. You'll see multiple iterations of them, because you could have a refund technically issued by the IRS several times, like you saw for this person in 2021, if there's a bunch of other things that pop up during the tax year. But for this case, you'll generally see the 9710 and 570 code pop up. Now, they both have the date of 4/18 and a $0 amount. Now, these would have probably come into the transcript several weeks before this actual date, because it'll probably have mean the IRS was doing processing, because the 570 would have come up. They would have sent a notice to the taxpayer and said, hey, this is why it's on hold, and or maybe it's an automatic resolution as well. But generally, when the dates become the same, it means that the issue is resolved. So I'm going to repeat that again. If you generally see the same dates, and this is just based on anecdotal evidence, I don't work for the IRS or have any, I'm not a CPA, but generally what I've seen from a lot of the examples is if the dates, the 2022 dates again, are the same, it means the issue is being resolved. And you know this for sure when you start seeing the 571 code, which means that the resolved additional account action. So this happened a week later, which to me suggests this was an automatic resolution by the IRS or an identity verification check. But because of the really rapid nature of this, to me, this probably is a child tax credit. They probably had issues with the dependents. They were able to resolve it internally, and they've made the adjustment that, they have made no adjustments, and they said, okay, that's just fine. And so a week later, they've approved it, and essentially the refund has gone out. Now, you may be asking, why is the refund on 4/13? Well, like I said, all these dates tend to be a system generated date. So it's from 4/18, 4/25, but they could have all been happening a few weeks before the actual date. But you know that it's been a week between 4/18 and 4/25. So this got resolved. This code may actually pop up even after the refund is issued, because technically taxpayers can appeal their refunds, and the IRS may have to do another issuance. But it's from here, the refund was issued on 4/13/2022, and the amount was paid out here. So this will just show you sort of how this process works. And I know it confuses some people. If they don't see different dates, they may not see these last two lines, right? So they may see 971 or 570 only, and that's very common. You may see that for several weeks, and your WMR, which is your Where's My Refund tool, will just show your refund is processing, or you could get letters to say the IRS needs 60 more days, etc. And I've got some articles where I've talked about those in more detail, but generally you'll sort of see this sequence. So once it's resolved, it goes to 571, but only when you see the 846 line is when you know it's truly resolved. So you need to wait for that, because these dates, 4/18, 4/25, will keep changing until the IRS is able to resolve it and it's this 4/13 date that you truly care about. So this shows that the refund was issued, which means that the taxpayer should get the actual refund in their bank account within a couple of days or within a week if they did a paper check. So hopefully this helps you. Please leave a comment below in the below the video, and I can answer any specific questions to you. Don't share any personal information. Just share the dates and the amounts and the sequence of the codes for the 2022 or 2023 tax year, whichever tax year is relevant. And I'll try and help you figure out what's going on, right? But it's listening to these codes, looking at the dates, and then ultimately you need to wait till you get 846, because until then, all these lines ahead of 846 could change and update based on what the IRS finds with their processing, and there's not much you can do. The one thing I'll say is if you do get a 971 code, make sure that's a letter, a notice issued by the IRS. Look for that in your IRS account. Check your mail, and if there's an action for you, for example, to submit more information or verify certain things, do that as soon as possible so that your refund is released, because that could be the biggest reasons things don't get released. And then once you see these codes, just wait for your refund. Hopefully they helped you all. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.